Okay, so today we're going to go over OSHA 300 requirements. Here's what we were going to cover today. First couple things we're going to talk about are L&I reporting requirements, which has nothing to do with OSHA. We're going to briefly talk about claim suppression, and then we're going to jump into the actual OSHA 300 stuff itself, talk about the requirements of the documentation. We'll talk and I'll teach you what is and was not a recordable, and then how to fill out your summary, and then how this documentation is used to generate your incident rates. Again, this has nothing to do with OSHA, but just a good time to good reminder is when you should call Labor and Industries. The first thing I want to get across is you should call your account manager first, whether that's Jason, Julie, Brianna, whoever is helping you manage your workers' compensation claims at Aspire. Give them a call first. We know this stuff really well. We don't want you to have to call Labor and Industries unnecessarily. You don't want them to come out and do an investigation when they don't have to. The two key components here, the two triggers are inpatient hospitalization. We don't talk about fatalities, doesn't happen on our watch, but inpatient hospitalization is their fancy term for being admitted to the hospital. It doesn't mean going to the emergency room. It means being admitted. So back around COVID, around 2020, there was some language in this law that talked about overnight stay. That has been removed. Kind of, we didn't know about it until after the fact, but that language has been removed from the WAC, the Washington Administrative Code. So you can be admitted to the hospital, not be an overnight stay. But I would say, generally speaking, if you're admitted, given a room for observation because of an upcoming procedure, what have you, more often than not, it means overnight stay. So admitted is the key term. Again, make sure you're calling your account manager first. But inpatient hospitalization is when you need to call Labor and Industries. The other circumstance, and this is their term, not mine, but non-hospitalized amputation or loss of an eye. I can't think of very many circumstances where you're going to lose an eye and not be hospitalized, but every now and then we see that. I lost the tip of my finger, tip of my toe, and the way that's defined is if it hits bone, it goes to that first uh, knuckle. But if it hits bone and there's an amputation, then you also need to call Labor and Industries to report the incident, and they are going to come out and do an investigation. The basic information that you will need to provide in that first phone call is your contact name and number, name of the business, where it happened, date, time, et cetera, how many employees are involved. So just some basic stuff. Years ago, from my experience and people I talked to, this is a recorded line. I would say over the last 2 or 3 years, almost every time there's going to be a human being on the other end of that line asking you these questions. They won't at that moment in time schedule their investigation, but they'll say an L&I compliance officer will be contacting you and come out and do an investigation. So just know that's coming. I would also make sure you call us, call me, call your account manager, because we want to help prepare you for that investigation, help you start gathering paperwork that you're going to need, that they're going to ask for. We have a packet that we will provide you to help you to walk through that process and procedure. Um, I just wanted to go over that real quick. So inpatient hospitalization or non-hospitalized amputation. In addition, they say secure the scene. Don't disturb it. And what they mean by that is, if it's egregious in nature and need to clean something up, or you need to rope it off or de-energize the system, cover a hole, what have you, by all means, make sure that nobody else can get hurt with that incident scene. But after that, leave it as intact as possible so they can do an accurate investigation. Let's just briefly talk about claim suppression. Again, just another opportunity to bring this up. ABC likes for us to certain times just make sure that all of our members understand what claim suppression is. It is illegal, and what it basically is, boiled down to its simple terms, is preventing any employee from filing a workers' compensation claim or discourage them to. If you are found guilty, and and you did some of these things, the company that you work for will be unable to participate in any retro program again, ever, period. So in addition, if either Aspire or the association, meaning ABC, knew about this or encouraged this, they may be, i.e. ABC, in jeopardy of losing its retro program altogether, period. A lot of us be out of a job, a lot of money being lost to those retro members. So we take this very, very seriously. And examples of this are discouraging your employees from reporting injuries, offering to pay their medical bills to prevent an employee from filing a claim, or telling your employee to report it on their personal insurance as opposed to the workers' comp insurance. So meaning, hey, it wasn't work related. Trust me, I understand fraud. I understand validity. I know what you guys as employers are constantly fighting when it comes to things that we don't feel are valid. That's what you have us to fight on the backside of things. But please make sure that you are allowing them and encouraging them to seek medical attention. They have every right to go to any doctor they want to. And if we are fighting work relatedness on the back end, then we will absolutely do that. But you cannot discourage them from seeing the doctor. You can't discourage them from seeing their own doctor, the doctor they want to go see, or the clinic they want to go to, or try to pay their bills out of pocket, et cetera, et cetera. So this is serious. And if you have any questions, please reach out to your account manager and they can walk you through this with a little more detail if you'd like. OSHA 300 recording requirements. Most employers in this state are required to record their workplace injuries and illnesses on an OSHA 300 log, and the other documentation goes along with that, incident reports and the summaries. There are minimum threshold limits. You have to be at least 10 or more employees, average 10 or more in the calendar year. But you must maintain this documentation for each establishment or job site that's in play for the calendar year. And what I mean by that is if you operate out of Everett and you decide at some point in time that you want to open something up in Olympia and dispatch work out of Olympia, even if you're under the same UBI number, you would have to maintain separate documentation out of Olympia as well. Now, what this mostly comes into play is for job sites. So some of you larger, maybe GCs or larger projects, if you have larger projects in a subcontractor, if you're dispatching labor, and this is their term, on a reasonably continuous basis, meaning they're going there almost every week for the most part, even if it's only two people, and it's in play for the calendar year, you have to maintain a separate log for that one job site for the calendar year. And we'll get into this later, but you can combine that back onto your summary at the end of the year and fill out one summary, but you must maintain a separate log for each establishment or job site that's in play for the calendar year or more. Okay. You are exempt. Again, I said the minimum threshold to maintain documentation is 10 or more employees. So if we have had a couple of members at some point in time, either due to COVID or because they were winding down, didn't want to sell their business as they were winding down, finishing up the last couple, 2 or 3 projects, they fell under that minimum threshold limit of 10 employees or less. You're exempt. You do not have to maintain OSHA documentation if you're less than 10 employees, or you fall into this classification that's exempt, and we are a construction group at ABC, so we have never had an example of this where the company is exempt because of the type of work that they do. But less risky industries, call centers, customer service centers, et cetera, don't have to maintain documentation because they don't do risky work. Therefore, they don't hardly have any OSHA recordables. The requirement of OSHA is that this is filled in. And let me back up for a second. OSHA specifically says you can use whatever form you want as long as it captures the same information. Ours that we recommend that we provide you is obviously OSHA compliant. But the rules with this are you have to have this, if this is OSHA's rule now, you have to have this filled out within 7 calendar days of the incident. ABC's requirement, if you're an ABC retro member, which most of you are, is this report needs to be filled out within 5 days of the incident. Okay, my strong recommendation as a safety professional is that you have a practice that you teach and you hold the line on of same day reporting. I'm not saying you have to fill this out if you're in the ambulance going to the hospital because something bad happened. But at the very least, you want the communication to happen the day of. And the reason I say this is it helps suppress what I would consider fraudulent claims or claims that we question validity on. The weekend warrior injury is what I like to call them. As I went home perfectly fine on Friday, I injured myself doing the recreation that I love to do on Saturday or Sunday, and I come back to you, the employer, on Monday and say, "Hey, I pulled my back on Friday afternoon. I didn't think anything of it." Okay, if you have a policy of same day reporting, it's not airtight, it's not perfect, but it helps reduce your risk to those claims that we question on the back end. Okay, so again, just strong recommendation. Teach it, talk about it in your toolbox talks. Hey, we ask that you let us know when something happens. Okay.